So I guess we'll get started here. Let me start this, so respectful for your time. Before we even get started, as a housekeeping thing, I'd really like to thank everyone for coming. I know there's a million different things you could have went to right now. So we're going to keep with our theme of serious learning and serious fun. So hopefully you guys should have some fun during this too, to keep it light and engaged. The other thing, before we even get started, just to point out that my job is, I'm Kirk Monroe, and my job is a strategic customer success manager during the day for the Canadian customers in our company. So I have to tell you, it's the best job in the world because you get to go into our customers and say, hey, I'm here and I don't cost you anything. You don't have to buy anything else for me to work with you or whatever. So especially for someone like me who's never been popular, it was pretty exciting because all of a sudden then you get to be popular, right? So. Now, the next thing is, you guys probably think you're in the recipe for an engaged and passionate enterprise community, which is a bit of a mouthful, but in reality, you're in Cooking with Kirk. Now, people have said that's cooking, but it's not. I want to correct that right away. It's Cooking with Kirk. And what this show is you guys hear a lot about how analytic companies outperform other companies and you know how much better they do. But in reality, the only way you're going to be an analytics-driven organization is if your people are analytics-driven. And how are they going to be analytics-driven unless they have a lot of fun while they're learning? So this is what this show is all about. So as an example, the last time I had this show, I had Matthew Campbell from RBC on. He's here in the front wearing the bright green. He's easy to catch. And Matthew and I talked about what it takes to set up a tug. At RBC, they've got a great tug. It's a little over a year old. They get about 200 people every quarter when they run this tug, some in person, some from all around the world. And the other thing that Matthew has is he's got this unbelievable way to survey people and then visualize the data. So Matthew, do you want to stand up? If anybody wants to know how to survey their customers and visualize that, Matthew's your guy, don't ask me. So today though, I have a special chef guest on today who's Mike Madigan, who's a peer of mine, also a strategic customer success manager. And I just wanted to mention, before we call Mike to stage, that we also, it was supposed to be Gil Ghani, you might have noticed. He had a personal thing, couldn't make it. It's an all-good personal thing. But you can think of Gil as our executive producer, basically. So if we could put our hands together for Mike Madigan, welcome to the stage. See that? You didn't say a word and you got a round of applause.
So excited to be here.
Why don't you introduce yourself, Master Chef?
First of all, is everybody excited to be at TC so far? Having a good time? All right, there we go. Like Kurt said, my name is Mike Madigan. I am a strategic customer success manager at Tableau as well. I cover some accounts in the New York, New Jersey area, so I'm looking forward to sharing the recipe with you guys today and hope you can take a lot away from this.
So without further ado, I guess as we're in New Orleans, first, just before we start, I want to mention a couple of sessions. Mike and another Mike, Michael Holcomb, are running Skill Belts in a Box on Thursday. We're going to talk about that very quickly today. You guys got a taste of Charles Schwab already, but a much more in-depth one. I would definitely look into going to that one as well. And then one more that I couldn't fit on the slide, but Catherine and Julia are also in the Customer Success Program, are doing one on change management tomorrow morning at 10:15 and 2:98, I believe. Why this is important is if you guys have this feeling today, like in order to do all that stuff, change management's hard, don't ask us to go see their session. It's all about that's the change management that you didn't want to know about. I can't remember exactly the title, but it's a snappy one. It's so snappy I forgot it. But next up, let's take a look at Mike's recipe. I don't know what this says. Can you let them know?
Yeah, so this is going to be what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to talk about a solid foundation. So before you do anything within your community with what you're doing with Tableau, you got to have a solid foundation, a solid base to ensure success as you're continuing to develop and continuing to grow. And then we're going to talk a little bit how you can build your individual skills for your Tableau users and your new Tableau users and how you can upskill your existing users. And then we're going to talk about the fun stuff, which is what goes into building a community. What aspects of a community make your enterprise or your any size company successful with Tableau? And then at the end, we're going to bring it all back together because ultimately, what do you want to do with Tableau and analytics? You want executive engagement, right? We're putting all this work into analytics. We're putting all this work into reporting. But if the executives aren't buying into what we're doing, there's really no point to it. So we're going to tie it all together into that at the end. So these are the main areas we'll be discussing today.
That's awesome. So I guess if we start from the foundation up, the first thing we see, Mike, in your recipe is infrastructure that works. I thought we were talking about engaged users. What is this?
So this is this first part of the solid foundation. So when you're using Tableau, you're using Tableau Server, it's so important to have a strong foundation. If you don't have a strong foundation, you're going to run into roadblocks. So you want to understand what your deployment looks like, all the different options. You can do it online, you can do it on-prem. So understand where your data is coming from, what your data needs are, and how you can incorporate that. Do you have the right size to support the user base you have? And then throughout it, as you're starting to add more users, as people are starting to produce and publish more content out there, are you doing performance checking? Is there good content on the server? Because as everybody knows in here who uses Tableau at a company, there's always going to be some workbooks or something out there that's going to be hindering performance on server. So how do we offer some best practices on that?
Awesome. So just to make sure I get this straight, because you're the expert, not me, what you're saying is if I don't know, if I'm a user and I'm trying to be passionate, excited, and I don't know how to publish it, or I have to wait for 30 seconds for a viz to come back, I'm not going to be very engaged?
Exactly. Just think about it, if you're opening a web page and it doesn't load right away, you're going to get frustrated and go on to something else. Think about if somebody's opening a dashboard or content that you developed, you spent all this time on, even if it takes 30 seconds, you're probably going to move on and you're going to get frustrated and go to something different. So we're trying to avoid that pitfall to have this seamless experience when you're interacting with content on server and on desktop.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. If we look at your next thing as part of foundation still is application design?
Exactly. So the next part of the foundation is application design. So everybody, when you're looking at server, there's a lot of different aspects on how you can divide content on there. We have projects and sites and permissioning. You can give Joe access to publish. You can give Mary viewing only. So you got to think about things as you're going so people have access to the correct content when you're out there. You also don't want people doing things that they might not want to do. You might not want them to do, for example. Another important thing is as you're using analytics and as you're building the enterprise reporting within your organization, you're trying new things. There's going to be new use cases out there. So there needs to be a type of environment where you can go and publish a test case, right? You want to be able to kind of test it, get some feedback from users within your company on what you're doing. So that hypothesis testing is super important because, again, going back to what we were just talking about, you want to have that to see how it works, to see how it loads. Is it interacting how you want it to? Because as everybody knows, sometimes you build it in desktop, you publish it, and the interaction isn't exactly what you wanted it. So you can kind of figure that out through the testing. So it's super important there. And then, server onboarding process. As important as it is to onboard desktop users, teach the analytics capabilities, but we want to educate people on the server onboarding process, not only from the people who are publishing, but from the people who are going to be viewing the content. Because we've got to think about it from the perspective of a lot of people are coming from Excel, old school reporting. The concept of interacting with a viz is going to be brand new. So how do we onboard these people to kind of communicate that, to show them, hey, these are filters. This is kind of how these dashboards are going to work.
Okay, I think I get this now. So let's try to pull this together. How many people have been this is TC6 or more for them? Anybody in the room? Oh, so there's a few people here for sure. I remember, I'll point this out because I remember the first time I saw Tableau was 2007. I was working at Cognos at the time, and I was running our competitive team. And the first time I saw it, I remember when those guys, and I remember going, wow, I can't believe how quick I could do analysis in this. All I'm getting is reporting. If these guys ever figure out enterprise values, we're dead. Interesting. Anyway, yes, I just patted myself on the back for being prophetic there. But if we look at it, so Mike, what you're saying is now in Tableau you can have compliance type regulatory executive reporting side by side with, hey, I think I'm at a bank and maybe people who've got, hold more than $2,000 with us, I don't know, it'd be better credit card customers. I want to go test that hypothesis, but I also want to look at what we're telling the street.
Exactly. You just want to kind of have those in different areas just from a performance perspective to ensure that everything is moving how you want it to.
That's cool. In the same environment. So it makes sense again. I get everything in the same place, right? And then still on foundation, data quality and design.
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of the most important areas and one of the most overlooked areas when it comes to data quality. I mean, think about when you're doing a dashboard, you're doing a project, you spend most of your time finding the data you want, cleaning it to where you want it to go, and then getting into Tableau and actually building out that visualization is kind of that last step. So we're trying to minimize the time that is taking for you to get into Tableau. We want you to get there fast, start analyzing, start answering questions. And some things to think about when it comes to data design and quality, and this is going to tie back to performance and the correct environment again, but you always have the option to connect to your data live via extract or via extract. And we see a lot of people who are always doing live connections because it's an option. You can connect live to data, why not, right? If it's there, let's do it. But think to yourself, as you're looking at your data, how often does my data refresh? How often do I need the new data? Do I need it every day? Do I need it all the time? I run into a lot of customers who, even with extracts, they offer 15-minute extract refreshes on their server because that's how they initially set it up. And therefore, because the option's there, everybody picks it. There's a 15-minute extract, why not? Let's do it. But that is where the problems come in, because oftentimes, I would say most use cases don't need that live connection, don't need that data extracted every 15 minutes. You might need it every day, every week, but just really think about what you're doing there. And then process for creating and sharing metadata. And then one of the other things is publish and certified data sources. So this was a new feature in, do you know what version? 10.4, I believe. It kind of gives you an opportunity to get the single source of truth, right? So if we have a lot of people accessing data, publishing content out there, how do we know that they're using the same data source? So working at Tableau, we use Salesforce for a lot of stuff that we do. And when we go into our server environment, there are probably thousands of tables and thousands of connections that I can connect to, but how do I know I'm connecting to the right one and getting the information that I need, that I want? With published data sources, it gives your administrators and people who are in charge of that the opportunity to certify the data source, which puts a little check mark on it. Think about the blue checks on Twitter. So people know that it is the single source of truth. So if you see a dashboard connected to that database, you know that is the right data for this use case. And then data stewards in the business. This is something, Tableau, we're trying to bring analytics to everybody. Data stewards in the past, you would think IT-heavy people, they got all those skills, which we're not diminishing that, but now we know the need for data stewards in the business as well as IT. Because IT and business, what we're doing at Tableau is bringing them together because we're putting the power into the hands of everybody. So it's extremely important to have those folks on both sides.
So how pumped up is everyone about Tableau Prep Conductor? Like, think about what that means. So Tableau came along, we came along, 13, 14, 15 years ago. Then in the last, say, 6, 7, 8 years, as we became more and more enterprise, we took analysis out of the hands of analysts, well, kept in the hands of analysts, but then let business users have it. Then, of course, IT says, and rightly so, how can you publish all this data up to server? We don't know if it's certified. Now business can shape their own data, publish it, and still be controlled on the server in the flows by IT, if that's the way it works. I mean, I'm really pumped by it. I'm having a really hard time calling it conductor. I would have bet money that it was going to be called server, so I'm not always prophetic on everything. So if I call it Tableau Prep Server, that's my bad. Okay, now we get into the meat of this, I think, Mike. So we're talking about engaged and passionate people. But first you're talking about individual skills.
Exactly. So now we're getting into the fun stuff. So we're going to start by talking individual skills here and how you can upskill your existing Tableau users or onboard new Tableau users. So as strategic customer success managers, Kirk and I get an opportunity to work with a lot of different customers on how they're using Tableau and how they're leveraging the application. And something that we've seen successful is, or what we've been asked a lot is, how can I onboard new users? What can I do to educate new people? If it's interns, if it's new analysts that you have, new associates, how do I get people a nice introduction to Tableau and what can be done? So what often a lot of people do, and what we do, is we run beginner and onboarding sessions for Tableau. What that means is we basically run through a 30 to 45-minute demo of Tableau desktop, show them the clicks, show them how you can publish it to Tableau server or Tableau online, depending on what you're doing. And also, as you build your community, which we'll talk a little bit about here, you can start sharing some of the aspects of your community. And additionally, within webinar series, what we can do, a lot of people have probably seen some of the content that we put on our website, like examples of intro to calcs, advanced mapping, LOD calculations, parameters, things like that, where you give this content within your organization, you bring people together, and it gives an opportunity for you to have people, even if it's not in person, if it's on WebEx, to naturally and organically build that camaraderie. And one thing you might be thinking about, well, Mike, that's great, but do I have to spend hours and hours building content, building sessions, building materials to present, and how do I do it? Well, you might, if you work with somebody like Kirk and I, or if you all have a Tableau account team, an account rep, that's where we can kind of step in and help. We have a lot of sample presentations and materials we're definitely open and willing to share with you that come with workbooks and presentations, but also work with your Tableau team, your account manager, because we can help in the beginning as you're getting this started, as you're getting this going, and as you start to figure out exactly what goes into these webinars, you can start finding and uncover champions within your organization to run these themselves.
That's awesome. I assume, Mike, if you were looking to run them yourself, you might be able to get good content at, say, I don't know, TC Live presentation?
Might be a good place to start.
They're already categorized for you and everything by level, so that's pretty cool. The next thing we're looking at is visual best practices. It's Tableau. That makes a lot of sense. How's this different than what people have heard about before?
Yeah, exactly. So this is probably something new that we've been doing over the past year. I'm going to give Julia a shout out in the room here. Her and another colleague on our team kind of worked on a workshop, and it's one of my favorite things that I've seen that we've done, because we can produce, we can talk about LODs and calcs and all this, but if you're not building dashboards and how people want to consume the data in the correct way, is it really effective in what you're doing? So, think about the concept of Makeover Monday if you're familiar with that. It's a community-based project where people submit vizzes and get feedback. So this is where, there's many ways you can do it. You could, pick a couple different visual best practices in the beginning. Let's say color, the use of bands, which is big numbers at the top of the dashboards, the use of filters, things like that. And then people will bring in either their existing use case or maybe something that they're working on the side, and you can talk to one another, get that interaction with other groups, and get some, I would think, natural feedback from one another. Kind of understand what looks different, what looks good, bad, etc. As the developer, we all think everything looks great, right? I know everything I build is perfect. So, hearing from your peers and your colleagues and what could be changed is really awesome. And I know Kirk has run a few of these, or been a part of a few of these, so he could probably speak a little bit on it as well.
First off, one of our core values at Tableau is honesty, so he was fibbing about the beautiful vizzes he builds. I wasn't lying, just so we're clear on that.
That's true.
But has anyone seen our Science of Visual Best Practices presentation before? It's something Tableau runs sometime. So imagine we used to run this, well, we still run it, like it's an hour or so presentation where we teach the science of visual analytics and how people process that information, and then so why Tableau works the way Tableau works. What this is it's an actual workshop, so it gets sticky, because you watch that in a PowerPoint and it seems awesome, and 3 days later you forget it. So this actually helps build it in, which I think is pretty awesome. But Jesse here in the front, I can tell, without even saying anything, Mike, is asking the question, I don't have a Madigan, so if I want this workshop, how do I get it?
Well, that's a great question. Well, we have a template that we're working on putting together that we can help share with you guys that kind of gives you an agenda, a flow of the day. We typically see them as half days, something like that, where you start the day talking about best practices, and then you kind of break into groups and have hands-on, actually getting into the product, working with your peers, and understanding what's going on. So
I think what Mike meant to say was we started a Twitter handle called Tableau Champions, and if you follow and tweet at us on it, then we'll send you the deck, I think is what he meant.
I think that's what I meant.
That
I
is
forgot
what I meant
that
to say. So if you find Tableau Champions on Twitter, help us get it going. It's not about us, it's about you guys as champions having a place to connect and share information, which we're pretty pumped up about. The next one you have is Attend TC. This one seems kind of obvious for this group.
Yeah, it seems obvious, but I figured I couldn't not cover it. Thank you all for coming to TC yet again. But I think TC is such a great opportunity to really network with your peers, understand where we're going with Tableau, understand, how is Tableau different from everything else? I mean, we've all been to conferences before. Coming to Tableau conference, you see a parade last night, you see bands everywhere, you see very casual dress, people are interacting with one another. I know I'm pretty active on Twitter myself because I work at Tableau, so I've met a lot of the people within the Tableau community that I've never met, and I come here and I get to meet people, interact, and have fun. So you really get a lot out of this week, as you all know. You get to talk, and then, for the people, if you don't know, who aren't able to come, because we understand this is a very expensive trip for everybody, that we do broadcast it. So TC Live is a great thing. We broadcast all of our keynotes, 11 of our top breakout sessions, and then after conference, we're gonna have all of these sessions recorded and the material shared on there. So even if you are here and you wanna go back and you saw some sessions or you saw some that you aren't able to attend, go back, watch them, download the materials, and you can even see who the presenters are and reach out. We really pride ourselves on being a freakishly friendly company, so we're always willing to help and interact with anybody who reaches out and looks for help here.
So if you think that Madigan was a funny guy, you can go back and listen to this and steal some of his stuff for sure, as an example. So that's cool. Lots of examples we can use from attending TC. And then you have a whole session on this on Thursday, so I'm thinking you know a little bit about a certification program?
Yeah, so earlier this year, a colleague of mine, we were in a team meeting, and we're getting a lot of questions from customers about, hey, how can I certify my Tableau employees internally? It doesn't have to be the official certification, but how can I have kind of a roadmap, a framework to upskill and train Tableau users? If it's 5 users, if it's 100 users, if it's 10,000 users, it doesn't really matter. This is how we looked at it. So we built a framework and we built a platform that kind of walks people through beginner, intermediate, advanced with merit badges in there. So let's say you're in a marketing role, we have a marketing merit badge which focuses on marketing use cases. We have a finance merit badge, so you can learn how to do income statements, FP&A, things like that within Tableau, or data prep. And if it's not job related, let's say you as an employee are just interested in something. That's what these merit badges are. It gives you an opportunity to learn. And then one other aspect of it, you have the ability to track your individual use. Where am I within the program? And within the program, you're going to find tests, you're going to find workbooks, you're going to find challenges, you're going to find proctor exams. And the whole idea of the program is to give back. So there's a lot of volunteerism aspects. So are you answering questions? And one thing to note on this is actually a live, prototype right now. So we are looking for feedback on this program. So if anybody in the room is interested in learning more about this, we'll put our email up at the end, and please email me and we'll get you added to the program right away. And it's all built on Tableau, obviously, so it's just a way for you to kind of follow and track your users. If you're a manager and you have a team, you can go into a dashboard and say, hey, all right, Mike is on track, he's done beginner 1, he's done Tableau Prep Merit Badge, but this person, we need to kind of figure out what's going on here. So there's a lot of interactivity within it.
And the levels in it, not Disney approved, are Jedi levels as an example as the default. So you can work your way from Jedi Youngling through like Padawan to Jedi Knight, all the way to Jedi Grandmaster. So who doesn't want to be a Jedi Grandmaster? We even give you a workbook with, I don't know if you've seen the technique that Kevin Florage talked a lot about, filling up water bottles, which he did in an Iron Viz. We're filling up lightsabers for you. So it's a lot of fun, really easy to get people engaged. I know Liz Lee here at RBC said she's going to roll it out starting on Monday. She committed to that. And we got a group, our group at TD here with Catherine and Julia. They're ready to go, so they've reviewed it, rolling it out. So we've got actually customers doing it. So again, if you want that again, you know who to tweet, you know, to ask, or whatever. We're pretty pumped about it. And you know what session to go to get all you ever wanted to know about it, but we're afraid to ask, which is close to the change management title, which I'm going to remember. The next thing we have is build community.
So this is why everybody's here, right? You came here to figure out what you can do to build an enterprise community. We figured we just needed to start with the foundation, so you understand how, if you start off in the right place, things are going to be easier. They're going to move smoothly. You're going to run into less roadblocks along the way. But now we're going to talk about really the deep aspects of a community and what you can do with that.
So collaboration platform.
Yes, so this is, I would say, the most important aspect of a Tableau community, right? So you're having that internal forum for people to interact with one another, get quick answers. What does that medium look like? It really depends on what you have at your organization. Do you have a Slack channel? Do you have Jabber? Do you have a SharePoint site, a Jive site? Something like that where your users can go on there, see content, you can post articles, you can, if TC Live, for example, you can post that out there, like, hey, the community, here's this. And we found that these channels are really an opportunity for your users to engage with one another. Even though you have Tableau at your organization, you might be using Tableau, but you might not know who else is using Tableau there, right? It's something that I like to talk about is I have a customer who has a very active Slack channel, and what they do is if somebody's trying out a use case, they'll post on the Slack channel and be like, hey, I'm looking to do a Salesforce project. Has anybody done this? And then Kirk might reach out and be like, hey, I connected to Salesforce. Let me get you in touch with the people who helped me do that. So this is going to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning, is lessening that time that it takes for people to get access to the data so they can start the analysis right away. And some other things you can do on here is monthly newsletters, just sharing ideas. And then it gives your users, again, an opportunity to promote themselves a little bit, a little selfish promotion there. To come in and look at this, look what we're doing, etc.
So I think I'm starting to get this now. It is a cooking show, remember, if we get off that. And we are in New Orleans, and it's the kind of place where they mix Creole spices and pasta and sausage and shrimp, and you're like, that's crazy, but it all works, right? At least it works for me. So I think about this, and now I'm starting to get what you're saying. So I want to run a webinar series. I promote that this way. If people have questions after, they've got a Slack channel. I link to my certification program off this. So this is all starting to tie together for me now.
Exactly, and one last thing on this is, what he was talking about earlier in regards to if you go to a dashboard and you take a long time to load, think about if you have a problem, if you have a question, you can't get an answer to it, how long are you going to wait? Are you going to get frustrated, or are you going to move on to something different? I think myself, probably. If I can't get a quick answer, I'm going to move on. So this is, again, an opportunity for your users to go out there, get quick answers from the user base, and then continue their project.
It's not completely true. Your viz is so beautiful you could sit and stare at it for...
Exactly.
Okay. So next up, we have start a TUG and a Center of Excellence for people who aren't familiar with those terms, but I think a lot of people are. So are they the same thing?
It's a great question. So they actually are not the same thing, but they work very close together. So quick explanation of both of them. So think about a COE as everything that we're talking about today. Everything that we're talking about today goes into the COE. Webinars, Slack channels, all of that. And then the TUG is a part of that COE. So the Center of Excellence is the overarching community platform that you have within your organization, and then the TUG is going to be within that. And some things that you can do within the TUG is that's where you can, again, leverage your Tableau team. Ask us for help. Can we bring in speakers? Can we bring in somebody to talk about some areas of subjects that you care about? We can share best practices. You can give your users the opportunity to share use cases. Maybe they're experts at LODs. Maybe they're really good at dashboard design. As you're seeing this week with the Tableau public viz gallery, some of the stuff that was shared in the keynote this morning, some of the vizzes out there are just absolutely beautiful and complete art projects. So maybe there's somebody who's really good at that, really good at dashboard design. You can build the community and gather use cases. So as your organization grows and within analytics, you can understand what pockets of the teams are using Tableau. Is finance using Tableau? Is marketing using Tableau? Or even within finance, are different groups within finance using Tableau and leveraging it separately? So
is it okay if I share an example here on your
Please
recipe?
do.
Okay, so again, in tying this all together, I'll share a story with you guys again. Sorry if I keep bringing up the same names, but we know our own customers. You can imagine lots of other ones. So again, at RBC, if we go all the way back to foundation, we did deployment review, found out that extracts were taking too long to run overnight. We just quickly make a recommendation. You could be running a lot of these incrementally, as an example, without getting too into the weeds, but you could be doing incremental extracts instead of these full extracts that might run overnight. They're like, that's a great idea. I had a speaking slot at the TUG, and one of the people from the COE, can I take part of your slot? I'm like, I don't want to present at your TUG, it's your TUG. You take the whole spot if you want. But anyway, he takes the spot at the TUG. He announces that they're going to help people run incremental webinars. He sets up a webinar, like not a whole webinar series, but a webinar attracts 150 people. Then all of a sudden incremental extracts start getting run. We get all the way to full circle and their foundation gets better. So you can see without all those pieces in play that take time to build up, that would have been hard to do, right? And it's certainly a lot better than the old IT waterfall thing where the COE or IT sends out a message to everyone going, your extracts are taking too long, I'm kicking them off the server, right? So it's we're trying to get people engaged and passionate. It's a very proactive project, and that's how you have all those things. And everyone should laugh at that because we've all been there or whatever. Would never happen inside Tableau, but every other organization in the world is.
go back to that real quick.
What's that, sorry?
One last thing that I know Kirk forgot to ask me, he meant to, is can I have one without the other? Do you have to have a TUG and a COE? And the answer is no. So everything that we're talking about today, you got to just start somewhere. So I'm going to use one of my customers for an example. I support ADP, which is a big payroll processing company. And we got together in November of last year, and they came to me and they're like, hey, Mike, can you help us do this? Can you help us start a community at Tableau, ADP? And I was like, I would love to. How would you like to start? And they're like, let's have a monthly meeting. I was like, okay, great. So we use WebEx as our Tableau user group, and we bring people together, and that was the start of our COE. And stemming from the Tableau user groups, we now have makeover monthly sessions, we have use case makeovers, we have all these other aspects to it with just starting one event. So you can start somewhere and then build off that. You don't have to necessarily put out a full and robust COE at the beginning. Start small, engage your users, figure out what they want. Because the whole point of a COE in a Tableau user group is to present on what's relevant to your company. I can talk to you all day about certain things, but if it's not relevant to your base, no one's going to really care about that.
Thanks for that, because Jesse's got very expressive eyes, and he was asking that question, I could tell without it.
Right.
Yeah. Run viz competitions.
So this is a great one too. So you're at TC. First of all, if you're here tomorrow, go to the Iron Viz keynote. The Iron Viz.
Can I interrupt for just a
Yes.
second on this one? How many people are at their first TC? Oh, wow. So a lot of people, that's awesome. Okay. How many people have done a brain date yet? I'm just picking on one thing. Anybody? It's good. I heard people are saying it's awesome. Look, I'm hearing from the front here. It's Linda's saying it's amazing. I heard last night was amazing. Okay, I'm putting an asterisk on that and anything else you might be planning to do. Tomorrow at 5:15, especially if it's your first one, cancel your brain date, anything else, go see the Iron Viz. It's the highlight of conference. So, and why is the highlight of conference? And you can imagine what you could do with it. I think that's what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, and a shout out to my friend Corey Jones from Johnson & Johnson who's going to be in it, so make sure you see him tomorrow, cheer him on. But to go back to the Viz competitions this goes really into building individual skills. Yes, they might be labeled as competitions, but there's no winners and losers in these, and I want to stress that. And there are many different variations, so you can run a Viz contest where you as an organization either pick a fun data set or you pick actually a data set internally on however you want to do that. What I typically see is I'll help folks pick either like a really basic data set, something that people can relate to. So one thing that I've done recently is McDonald's nutrition data, which I actually wish I didn't see that because it's rather concerning. But it gives your users a forum to kind of put out work there and get solicit feedback. So the whole point of these is to interact with one another, to understand what people think is working, what is not. If you think about the concept of Makeover Monday, I know I've talked about that a lot and I'm going to continue to talk about that, is where people submit Vizes based on a generic data set, and then people within the Tableau community offer feedback. It's not like, hey, you did a terrible job here. It's like, hey, why did you do that? So it's really diving into the why versus the what and understanding that. So these are really great. I know we've both run a bunch of these. We've seen a lot of success. And it also helps build that camaraderie, again, within your Tableau community. And then it might help push them out to different Makeover Monday, things like that.
And I know we're going to talk about executive alignment later, but I think the best ones, again, one at TD a couple of weeks ago, is what you can also do when you get to executive alignment, invite execs in to be judges. We do keep scores, I'm not sure often, so I'm not sure how there's not a winner, but I'm working with you, Mike, for sure, on this one, on the competition. No, it's all good. The next thing we have is find and promote champions.
So this is a really great question that I get from a lot of people is, what is a Tableau champion? How do I find Tableau champions? Well, it's a great question, and through a lot of what we were talking about is how you can uncover that. If you start a Tableau user group, I know Kirk was mentioning the survey aspect earlier, so if you survey your audience and you're like, hey, what do you guys want from the user group? What do you want from the COE? Does anybody want to participate or share their use case? You can kind of build off that. Reach out to Kirk, who said, hey, I want to participate. See what he's doing. See what he wants to talk about. So getting those people who are engaged, who want to help. You can proctor skill belts, which I talked about a little bit earlier, because there are components of the skill belt program that actually you have to sit down with somebody and do something within Tableau designed by your organization. You can help run Tableau doctor days, which if you've participated in the doctor sessions here, it's a really great opportunity to sit down with a Tableau expert and get an answer to your problem, or just get some feedback on a viz you're working on. And you can run those internally on your own, and that is something that we can help with as well in the beginning, and then Viz competitions as well. So just finding and uncovering people who want to get involved and want to help people. One thing that is different at Tableau is, to be good at Tableau, you don't necessarily need that extreme technical background. It obviously helps, and there's a lot more you can do with it. But if you have a passionate user, somebody who's really engaging and really into Tableau and analytics and wants to give back, you'll see that organically happen.
So in terms of representing externally, I'm not sure, people probably don't know this, but, it won't present out? Is that, just a sec. Did I not leave PowerPoint? Might have been my bad. Well, let me get out of PowerPoint here. This is why you practice these things. Just a second. I'm gonna mess everything up. There we go. I'm not sure if everyone knows, but if anyone's in the session, we do have a celebrity in the room. So in terms of promoting externally, we have Julie Sauvage in the room. This was, I don't know if you know how Iron Viz works, but there's 3 feeder competitions that each give off one winner. This one was just shown on main stage a little bit earlier, and this Julie from TD did. I looked at this and went, it was a fan favorite, so every one of the feeders gets votes on different categories. It was a fan favorite. And so imagine you see this, and like, how could you not want to go work at Tableau? Like, people there clearly have fun, they get to promote their skills, etc. So we have Julie in the room, and what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I agree with Adam. I can't believe that selfie from Ellen ended up winning. So Julie, come up. We're going to take a selfie in front of this thing right now. I hope everyone can bear with us for this. It's your recipe, dude. Get in here.
Hey, I picked the color.
Yeah, look, she didn't know.
Bar chart.
We didn't.
Transparent worksheet.
I suck at this. Thanks. So that's why it's important to promote champions externally in the work. I couldn't build a Sankey to save my life, and she built 2 on this thing. Look at that. This is super interactive, too. If you want to look at it, the amount of time it must have taken to build this or whatever, I don't know. And I'm a little bit of a Harry Potter geek. So I'm definitely in the I'm not worthy category in that one. So anyway, thanks for coming up. Let's go. I'll tweet that out, and we're going to take Ellen out. Okay, let's see if we can get back on show. Okay, perfect. So I think this might be your last one in this category. A Tableau day at a company sounds maybe like a mini TC?
Exactly. So we understand that organizations, you can't send everybody to TC, but you still want to have some type of environment where you can bring people together in person. We've been talking a lot of what we've talked about is a lot easier done via WebEx, but the concept of a Tableau day is a mini TC, right? This is where you bring, it doesn't matter how many people. Again, it could be 50 people, it could be 100 people, it could be 500 people. I've helped events where we've had up to 500 people, and I've run events worth 50 people, and they've both been equally successful if you have the right audience and you have the right agenda. So what can you do in a Tableau day? You want to have executive buy-in. You want to have an executive keynote, somebody from your organization who believes in analytics, talks about it, and can really talk about the strategy behind what you're doing. So have that buy-in there. And that goes to executive engagement like we talked about in the beginning and which we'll talk about in a little bit here. You can have internal teams share what they're doing, share their use cases, because we can talk about from Tableau's perspective, hey, you can do this, this is the vision, yada, yada, yada. But as users, what's really going to resonate with your other users is talking and hearing from people internally and what they're doing and what they're leveraging. You can have breakout sessions. So these are extremely customizable. Everything that we've talked about today is extremely customizable based on what you want. So you can have advanced sessions, you can have Jedi charts, you can have beginner sessions like beginner onboarding sessions, things like that. And I know a lot of you are asking in the room, well, Mike, I have no idea what sessions to even think about beginning to put on this. Well, that's what we're here for. We can help with that. We can give you ideas. Another good thing, like Kirk mentioned in the beginning, is leverage TC Live. There's going to be a lot of content out there, a lot of materials that you can use, and you can use that content as you're going through it.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. If you think everybody ties things together, who do you want to present at this? The champions you found, right? Like where do you get ideas from Tableau Live? Again, after it's over, people, the most popular ones, roll them out as a webinar series. So it all kind of ties together, which is great. And I think that is a nice topping off. Just before we end, I think the icing on this thing, you want to talk about business and IT alignment and exec alignment.
Yeah, so I think this is going to really bring everything together, is how do you bring the organization together? Because Tableau, again, we're bringing in a lot of different parties. You got business, you got IT, and you got executives. The business people, they want the newest version of Tableau. So everything that Francois and Adam just talked about in our keynote, everybody in the room wants that right now. And I know you do because I do, right? But from the IT perspective, from a server, when you're upgrading, there's a lot that goes into it from a testing perspective. So you got to understand, does this upgrade make sense? Why are we upgrading? Is our organization going to benefit from this upgrade? Are we sure that everything is going to work as smoothly as it does now after the upgrade happens? So just communicating that to your business users, keeping them informed on where the process is, and then just feedback and tweaking of onboarding or anything that you're doing. I know Kirk mentioned the survey earlier, and I've worked with customers who we do that initial survey, but then we do that survey on a quarterly basis. And the survey that I'm talking about is actually published on Tableau Public, so if you guys are interested in looking at that, we'll make sure to share that as well. It's by a guy named Dennis Peters, so if you search him, you'll find it. So it's really just kind of figuring out what's working and what's not.
Yeah, I got another good example, I think, of a customer I've worked with where they have, on their own, again, not us, if a viz takes longer than, I think, 7 seconds, then what happens is the COE sends out a document to the person who authored it to try to make it quicker. It's our document we have on designing efficient workbooks, effectively. Then if that doesn't work, then they'll offer to sit down with a session, and only then does the conversation have to get punitive. It's not like we're going to knock off everything that's takes longer than 7 seconds. So again, we want people engaged. It's got to perform, but we need to keep them engaged. So we do. So it's perfect to do full loop on that. I would think executive engagement is probably pretty.
Yeah. So this is a very important part, and this is sometimes hard, right? As the business users, it's hard to get executive buy-in and kind of teach them about Tableau and data analytics. So the most important thing is agreeing on a success criteria in the beginning. And I like to break out success criteria into 3 different categories. You got business goals, you got community goals, and you got IT goals. So aligning with those, and when you're developing these goals, you want to bring in people from all of these parties. You want execs in the room, you want the business users in the room, and you want those IT users in the room, so they are all in alignment on what is happening there, and why are we doing this, and what is the goal of this. And after you set those goals, it's extremely important to revisit them. So if it's on a quarterly basis, if it's on a monthly basis, whatever cadence you'd like, we typically see quarterly, to see if you need to amend them. Do the goals that we have still make sense? Has something changed within our organization that we need to update our goals to, right? So if you don't change those, they might not be relevant at the time. So continuing to develop those.
So I've made it to 40 minutes without a sports analogy, and now I'm going to cave. But we're in New Orleans, and if you think about executive alignment, like the city had a dismal football team here, and San Diego's ownership gave up on a quarterback. He tried to go to Miami. The coach didn't want him. The owner really wanted to bring him here. The city, after Katrina, ends up winning a Super Bowl, and Drew Brees now is the all-time NFL passing leader. That's what executive alignment does in sports. What's it do for you, I think, is imagine you spend all this time and you get to this stage. You've got an engaged and active community. Everyone's in it. You're making better decisions, and your execs don't know. Right? And then all of a sudden, a new exec gets hired, or they have a relationship with someone who just went to Microsoft, and they're like, we don't get it. Let's just bring in Power BI or whatever and just like take it completely out. Now, that's a little bit self-serving for us, but also for you guys. Like you've become experts in something, and all of a sudden the rug's been pulled completely out of you because you didn't keep your executives aligned all the way around. So I think that one's super important. I like that one as a wrap-up one.
We forgot to go back quick.
Oh,
and then the last thing I want to talk about is the alignment of roadmap. So not only is it important for us to keep you informed of what we're doing at Tableau, but we want to understand what you are doing. How is your business changing? What are your needs? Francois Argenstad, who's our chief product officer, who you probably heard in the keynote, had an article in Forbes last year, and he was asked, how do you design your product? Why do you develop Tableau? Well, we design our product with you in mind. We design our product with the customer in mind. If we're designing products with what we want, it's not going to get us anywhere. So we want to understand what challenges and what business problems you are facing within your organization so we can help develop our product to help solve those. So our product team and our dev team is super interested in hearing directly from you. You'll see a lot throughout this week at Tableau Labs, at various sessions, where we want to hear the feedback. And we're not just asking you for the feedback, we're actually going to action on a lot of that feedback. You'll notice on our forums, there's polls and whatever on different features. So really keep us in the loop, because we're going to keep you in the loop, and we're going to help see how we can help develop it based on that.
I was so excited by my sports analogy, I cut you out of your own recipe. That was my bad, for sure. We're going to play a little game now to recap to see if you guys were paying attention. I've got 3 shirts up here, and we got a whole bunch of pop sockets we can take home for your friends. So we just want to see if people were paying attention. So first person who gets it out gets a piece of swag. Okay, it's not world-class swag, but it's free. So we'll lump the first 3 into solid foundation, since again they're just foundation. And then, does anyone know the first thing Mike spoke about? What was it?
Infrastructure.
No, I mean after infrastructure data, and we're just going to give that as a gimme. The first thing under individual skills is where we're going to start. What's that? No, sorry. Now I ruined my own game. So deployment options, application design, and data, that's all foundation. So after that, the first thing Mike spoke about in the category about what? Webinar series. Do you want a t-shirt? Or did someone get that out quicker? What size? Large or extra large? Large. You look large. You look large to me. I did not mean to offend you. What came after webinar series? That did come back.
Yes.
Do you want to, I think I only have men's t-shirts, sorry. Would you want to give it to a friend, or do you want some pop sockets? Oh, pop sockets for sure. Okay, next.
There you go.
A 10 TC, who said that? Oh, nice. Shirt for someone else, or? What, medium or extra large? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Visual best practice, 10 TC. Next one, anyone? People. Nice. Do you want the medium men's or pop sockets? Okay.
Cool.
Okay, we've only got 5 to go. 1 shirt, lots of pop sockets. Next up, so this would be the first one under community. It was close. Was it here or there?
Both.
Pop sockets to both. There we go. Here and there. Next up, after collaboration platform. Tug, do you want this or pop sockets? Okay, it's Tug COE.
Who was the other one over here?
I knew Jesse would be paying attention to that one for sure. Yeah. We talked about it last night at the bar, so here, take a couple. Whoops. Pop sockets for everyone.
Kirk's really good at games.
Okay, after Viz competitions. You won already. No one here? Do you want medium? Or? Okay. Champions. And then last one. Which one? What did you say? No, that's down at the bottom. Sorry.
I heard it over here. I got some over here.
Okay. Thank you, guys. That was a lot of fun. So, again, just before we wrap up, here's our mental model that you can think about. Again, we got all the breakdowns. The session's recorded anyway. But just before we leave you guys, if you want to hit us up, we're trying to get better on Twitter. Again, that group I talked about, which was Tableau Champions, which has got one tweet because we started it yesterday. But you can find Mike or I. You guys are early on. So Mike's M. Madigan 23. I'm the unbelievably complicated at Kirk Monroe. So that one's pretty easy. And then just before we leave you, because we did want to leave you with about 10 minutes to not fight escalators and stuff to get to wherever you need to go. So we timed it this way on perfect. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the number 5 just very quickly. And at Tableau, we don't usually like the 3D rotation, but I kind of like this, the way stuff gleams off the side of it. I don't know, does anyone a BMW fan? 5 Series, X5. With your hands, when you clap or whatever, your hands are very important. They're number 5. I just wanted to get, so anyway, if you guys could please complete the survey. If we could all go into our app together, because it's confusing, so I just want to make sure everybody has this. In your app, what you do is you go to that little My Evaluations, you find the session, with the number 5 in mind, think whatever you want to give us, and then, and we would really appreciate that. So
yeah.
we have,
One last thing.
actually, I want to put, if you just leave your phones up here.
One last thing to mention, everybody. I know we talked about the certification program earlier. If you're interested in hearing more about that, my email is mmadigan@tableau. Feel free to shoot me a note. Come talk to me after this session. I'm happy to get you involved in the pilot. We are looking for feedback on it. It is all something you can take and download and implement in your own organization as well. So
Right.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much. Think of us when you make your next session on time, too. We did that.